Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, Canine Missing Project. That is our executive producer, Hawk. She is in the room. She's ecstatic because we went out for a little ride today, got out, ran around. She's all happy. And she wanted me to tell you that this is Huck TV. This is her channel. And she is very demanding. Huck, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. And I am wearing Huck's hat today. Yeah, you're a good girl. You're a good girl. Yes, a good girl. Oh, scratch me, Dad. Scratch me, scratch me. Yeah. It's a good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. Yeah, yeah. We're going to get on with the show today. Yes, we have a lot to discuss. So, I'm wearing the Huck hat because I'm going to be doing some fishing this weekend. And Huck is for fishing. Huck. Thank you for the person that sent me this hat. I know who you are. Thank you. Just came out from driving around Columbia Falls, Whitefish, where I live. And definitely the summer is in full swing here. The roadways are packed. And I was over at the Montana Vortex. Joe and Tammy Hauser own the Vortex. They're my friends, obviously. And every time I go to the Vortex, I experience something else. It's just the way it is. It's one of the strangest places on earth. And in many ways, I see it equal to most other of the strange places on earth that we see on TV. It just hasn't had the publicity. But trust me, I don't know anyone that I've sent there that hasn't come back and said, wow, Dave, that's odd. Yeah, it is odd. So you get a chance if you're coming to Northwest Montana and you're going to Glacier National Park. First of all, get reservations to go into Glacier. Go to Glacier National Park and you can get the reservation. And then on one of those days when you couldn't get the reservation, spend 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours at the Vortex. You will enjoy it. And then come on into Columbia Falls and Whitefish. Whitefish has a downtown area that is exceptional. It's a mountain ski community. Downtown area is just special. Columbia Falls, downtown area, not too special, but Whitefish is special. So get out, enjoy the scenery, have some fun. Now today, got a case this year, 2025. A lot of you told me about it, and I wanted to wait for some resolution like I do on most cases. Resolution hasn't come on this. And it's perplexing at best, disturbing at worst. The name of the woman that disappeared is Stefanie Womacks. This came off of her Facebook page. That's Stefanie, 52 years old, missing March 3rd, 2025 at about 6 p.m. Table Rock State Park, South Carolina, very close to the North Carolina border. She was camping in the White Oak section of Table Rock State Park. She's a combat veteran. She has a 100% disability. She's also a mother of a law enforcement officer. She's got a bachelor's degree in business administration. She's originally from Texas. She's got prior addresses in Troy, New York, Houston, Temple, Georgia, Freeland, Michigan, Carrollton, Georgia. Prior employment, she was a mental health specialist for the U.S. military. Boy, we need more of those. And I'm not implying that the military people need help. I'm implying we all need mental health specialists. She's also a senior loan analyst and a financial specialist At the present time on LinkedIn, she lists her, she's a CEO for a company called Play Supplies Plus. Here's what it says. A veteran-owned company serving the family entertainment industry. Since it was first approached by a local manufacturer of indoor playgrounds, our company has expanded to become a full-service provider. We offer consulting, design, layouts, installations, and inspecting, in addition to a host of venues and amenities. That's what the description of her business is. Now, her and her husband went to the park. It was never explained how long they had been at the park as of March 3rd at 6 o'clock. Now, Table Rock State Park, if you look it up, there's like a huge piece of rock on the side of the mountain. Kind of looks like a table that's on its side. 3,000 acres in size. What do you do when you go there? Well, you have the Lakeside Trail, which is 1.9 loop miles. The Carrick Trail, 2 miles. The Mill Creek Pass, 0.6 miles. And the Table Rock Trail, 3.6 miles one way to the top. That's probably the best hike if you're in shape. And if you like fishing, they've got a place called Pinnacle Lake, 36 acres in size, and Illinois Lake, which is 67 acres. They got bass and catfish. They got boats for rent. You can bring your own boat, put it in. They've got a playground, swimming, bird watching, geocaching, hiking, and camping. This is funny. Several months ago, I brought up geocaching. And a lot of people didn't know what I was talking about. If you go out online, look at geo, G-E-O, space C-A-C-H-I-N-G, and you put in a location, and it'll say if there's cached prizes at that location. And then they'll list their GPS coordinates of where you can find the treasure. Excuse me. What this is that most of the time it's like army ammo boxes that are in a bush between some boulders, and you got to find it based on the GPS location. I've done it with the kids when I was younger. It was fun. And the prizes are a little tiny plastic something, all kinds of things. What they ask you to do is, when you're geocaching, you bring little prizes. So when you go to a location and you find a cached box and you take a prize out, you put your prize in. So there's like a continual stream of stuff. And some people have their own customized geo prize to put in. Something got started decades ago, and it's fun. It's fun because it gets you in the outdoors. It gets you looking around. Teaches you how to use GPS. I would encourage anyone to do it. Try it. It's fun. Well, that's part of the stuff that they have to do at Table Rock State Park. Now, on March 3rd at 6 o'clock, Stefanie's husband left the campsite to get supplies that were needed. And as I was saying, they are staying at the White Oak camping area. About 7 o'clock he returns and Stefanie is gone. She's not a very big lady. She's 5 foot 100 pounds. Last seen wearing brown hoodie, blue jeans, and black shoes. This happened in Pickens County, South Carolina. Deputy responded to the campsite when the husband reported her missing. Now, the strange thing is that this county doesn't have a search and rescue team. So they called for mutual aid. I can't remember the last time I heard of a rural county that didn't have a search and rescue team. So that's different. So the deputies who got there searched the area They contacted the rangers that worked the park. They came out and helped. And then they called that night for search and rescue teams from surrounding counties to show up the next day on mutual aid. Mutual aid is something when law enforcement calls, it's almost a guarantee people come. It means that they need help. Well, on March 4th, there was a good response for assistance. They had 72 search and rescue people show up. And there was an organizer. He broke the park into grids where they thought that Stefanie may be going. And they also had the South Carolina Aviation Law Enforcement team respond and fly the skies. So this was a good response for the first day. And the second day was better because they got canine teams in there, 86 searchers, and then they brought in boats with side scan sonar to check and to run the lakes. And then an aviation team flew the skies. This is Table Rock State Park, right here. This is the North Carolina-South Carolina border. Runs right in here. Right next to this is Jones Gap State Park. Travelers Rest. Landrum. This area is very, very rural. As you go into North Carolina, DuPont State Regional Forest is a very, very rural area. Now you can see the lakes here. So there's a lot of water, but there's not a lot of resources right here, which is the problem sometimes when you're out camping, you get lost and you need help. March 5th, canine teams, 86 people. March 6th, searchers are out and they find some of Stefanie's personal things in a mountainous area far outside the hiking trails. Sheriff refused to say exactly where they were found, but he also said that he didn't suspect foul play. He also refused to say what they found. Not sure why he didn't say what was found. That was a little confusing to me. I know that when they find things belonging to people, they want to keep others out of the area because they want to put the canines in there. That would be the freshest scent to pick up from. Well, March 7th, they put a lot of resources into that area. Canines, 80 searchers. They focused on that heavy, and they thought that they had a good lead where she'd be. They gridded that up, and they went at it for 12 hours. They got nothing. March 8th, they continued the grid, another 80 searchers, still sonar in the lakes. March 9th, continued the same assault on that mountain looking for Stefanie. Now I gotta say, for a county that didn't have search and rescue teams, the response from this surrounding area was very good. March 10th, they hit a brick wall. Heavy rain hit that area, the entire area. It drove searchers off the mountain, and they had to stop searching. Whenever rain hits an area, and there's somebody missing, they know the urgency goes up. Hypothermia could hit in. Person obviously doesn't have a tent with them. A lot of bad things happen then. Well, they went back at it and they started to slowly back off on the search. March 18th, Pickens County had an emergency management director, even though they didn't have a search and rescue team. His name was Billy Gibson. He made a statement to the press. Now, Stefanie disappeared on March 3rd. It's now the 19th. So over 2 weeks she's been missing. This is what he says. It's been a bit of a mystery on what could have happened, but we are going to continue our search down this road. Okay? It's been a bit of a mystery. March 19th, searches continue. A lower number, same grid search. March 21st, an odd thing happens. Law enforcement deputies are searching. And up ahead, a couple hundred yards, they see smoke starting on the mountain. And it quickly starts picking up. So much so, the deputies thought they better beat feet because that fire's coming their way. So they come off the mountain. They describe this as a very fast-moving fire. At the beginning, when I first read about this, I thought maybe that was Stefanie's attempt to draw attention to herself, because a fire brings attention to yourself. By March 26th, 5 days later, the fire had tripled in size. And law enforcement had arrested 3 juveniles for starting the fire. Searchers kept going on the opposite side of the fire where it wasn't burning towards. They were missing a lot of the area because of that fire. Fire kept getting larger, and they kept having to be cautious. This is the first time in a long time I've heard of a fire inhibiting searchers. April 3rd, skip ahead about a week. All searches had stopped because the fire was now at 13,000 acres. Now, the Pickens County Sheriff made a really strange statement. He stated that this is his quote, "They believe Stefanie went into the woods to complete a personal mission, but didn't make it out." She went into the woods to complete a personal mission, but didn't make it out. No description of what that mission was. Was it some kind of mental mission? Was it a physical one, challenging herself? But the confusing thing was, her husband didn't know she was on this mission. Or did he? Because nothing was said early on. Well, Stefanie had a son, Isaiah Wilkins. Isaiah did a good job. He built a Facebook page for Stefanie. I'll stop right here for a second. If you're involved, if you have a good friend, I mean, you've got to be a spokesperson for the family to do this. You want to build, and somebody's missing, you want to build a Facebook page, and you want to title it, Find John Doe. Find whatever the name of the person. Find Stefanie Womacks. Well, Isaiah did that. And he was asking for volunteer search and rescue personnel to help, because the search for his mom was backing off. More and more time goes on. He listed under those events on the Facebook page that he stated that his mom was a good person, military vet, and they needed searchers. He also stated that one of her sons was a law enforcement officer. Well, Pickens County stated that in April and May, they were doing intermittent searches, and the sheriff stated that they were starting to use cadaver dogs. That's a tough thing for families to understand, but you have to think of the reality. Stefanie being gone a couple months now, could she survive in those woods without any resources? Very doubtful. very, very doubtful. Cadaver dogs are the best thing to close this case. Now, think about this response from when Pickens County asked for help. Anderson County Sheriff's, Anderson County Emergency Services, Greenfield County Sheriff's Office, Oconee County Sheriff's, South Carolina State Parks, South Carolina Task Force 1, South Carolina Search and Rescue, South Carolina Air Team. But those searchers, as I've stated 100 times, they have to eventually go home. They're volunteers. They're giving of their time. And realistically, you can ask for a searcher for maybe a week. After that amount of time, it's really a lot to ask of anybody. And you can keep a search going longer a week. You just need to rotate in more new people. Now, Stefanie disappeared March 3rd. Hasn't been found. Just like Billy Gibson stated, it's a bit of a mystery. What's happening here? Where did she go? If they found some of her materials, personal materials, on the side of that mountain up there, what were they? I don't know. But that's the case. Stefanie Womacks, Table Rock State Park. If I lived near there, I'd be all over that park. It's not that rugged of a location. Anybody who's in decent shape could do it. I would take a GPS locator and a compass and a map, and don't even walk the trails. It's not worth it. If you're actually searching for it, you're going to have to get off trail. And there was some notation that there were more rattlesnakes coming out during this time of the year, and they had to be careful. So when I've gone into areas like that, I always wear snake leggings, because you never know. You never know. I've gotten pretty close to some. Luckily, I've never stepped on one. Thank you. All right. Next case, unusual. A villager, one of you guys sent this in to me. Thank you very much, because I'd never heard of it. And it was reminded to her by a University of Montana award under the name of Christopher Greene. Yeah, Christopher Greene. Now you think, University of Montana award? That's pretty weird. Yeah, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So Chris Greene, 23 years old, went missing November 12th, 1976. He was an employee of the International Paper Company as a forester in the far western portions of Maine. Now, if you don't know, International Paper at the time is like Weyerhaeuser today. They owned hundreds of thousands of acres of woods that they would forest to make paper from. And they had paid foresters working for them, managing the forest, making sure it stayed healthy. Obviously, it's like raising a crop of corn, except it's big timber. They got to keep the trees healthy. Well, the area, let me show you where it was. So this is far western Maine. Here is the border of western Maine over here. This is a Moosehead Lake, and this is a small city called Rockwood. Remember that. The incident happened way up here. And this is a stream called Baker Stream, which comes down from here. You can kind of see it running. But this region of Maine is just about as wild as it gets. And what I mean by that, there aren't a lot of roads, there's no cities, there's no resources. It's wild. Now, this is the same area I wrote about missing 411 Eastern United States. I stumbled across a story, a very old story, in the 1900s. where Maine was suffering unusual numbers of wildlife that disappeared. And they couldn't understand it. In the same area where Chris disappeared. And the Maine governor got a hold of the Maine chief warden at the time and said, we got to do something. Because people said that elk, moose, deer, bear, they're disappearing out there. Originally, they thought that Canadians were coming down and poaching. So what they did is that Maine warden, the chief warden, decided to go out and find two of the toughest, most experienced, battle-tested wardens they had. And they knew exactly who these two guys were. They'd been with the warden service 20, 25 years. They grew up in this wild environment. They knew what it was like in the winter, how you had to be careful around ice. They knew how to manage canoes and water. I mean, these guys were the best of the best. They sent them out. And early reports coming back was they weren't finding anything. There was no tracks of people coming in. There's really nothing. And then all of a sudden, both of them disappear. There was a lot of theories about what happened to these two men, but there was nothing that really fit the theories. And they weren't found, which is probably one of Maine's biggest mysteries of all time. Missing 411 Eastern U.S. So, regarding Chris Greene, November 12th, the international paper hadn't heard from Chris as they should have at the end of his week, and they reported him missing to the Somerset County deputies in Rockwood, Maine, that small little city at the southern part of the map. They advised that Chris was in an area working 100 miles north near Baker Lake. Show it to you one more time. So this is Rockwood. This is where they reported to the deputies that he's missing up here at Baker Lake. And then Baker Stream comes out of Baker Lake. To get from here to here isn't like it's going to take an hour on a freeway. It's going to take a while. So the sheriff's office says, well, we only have 2 men in that whole area out there because there's nothing going on out there. So they get a hold of deputies Ivan Turnell and Clarence Johnson, both of Rockwood, and they said, hey, we need you to go up towards Baker Lake and do a search, find out what you can about this 23-year-old Christopher Greene that's disappeared working for international paper. Deputies say, okay. Now, it is extremely unclear how the deputies specifically identified where Chris was located. And it's even more unclear how they started to track him. They stated that they followed his tracks to a place called Baker Branch Stream, the stream coming out of Baker Lake. And they said that the tracks stopped at the stream. They claimed that they went to the other side and couldn't find any more tracks. And they made a presumption that he drowned. Hold your taters. First of all, in November, streams are not running big time up in that area. In fact, they're running real low, which was why the deputies had the ability to cross the stream and look at the other side to see if there were any tracks there. Now, Chris was one of these guys that loved the outdoors, lived the outdoors, spent tons of time in the outdoors before he ever worked for international paper. He was somebody who studied at the University of Montana because of that. Now, use logic here, folks. If the deputies, both of them, were able to cross the stream and look and see if there were any tracks on the other side, then why wouldn't have Chris? Now they never said that they searched for a mile along each side of the creek looking for tracks. They just stopped there, according to the reports. Now, I want you to understand something. I've crossed, I don't know, 5,000 creeks, small rivers in my day, fishing, hiking, etc. Sometimes, where you start to cross, the other side isn't susceptible to get out, or it's more difficult. And I've walked downstream, or I've walked upstream to find an easier exit out of the water. These guys didn't say they did that. They just stopped. No tracks on the other side, they stopped. And they made a presumption that Chris drowned. They didn't look anymore. That was it. I didn't really think it was that thorough from what I read. I may be entirely wrong, and they didn't include all their data. I don't know. But there's an award at the University of Montana. It's called the Chris Greene Memorial Scholarship. Let me read it to you. The Chris Greene Memorial Award honors a 1975 forestry graduate who met with an untimely accident while working in the woods for the International Paper Company in 1976. Before I go any further, for you people out there who are aspiring authors or you write for a living, don't ever use untimely accident, untimely death. What's a timely accident? What's a timely death? I don't like that. I've never liked it. Onward. Mr. Greene attended University of Montana for 2 years and was active in the Forestry Students Association and the Forestry School. He had an active mind and a good sense of humor and was an energetic, hard-working student. He was most interested in fire science. The recipient of this award must be active in service to the College of Forestry and Conservation and must have financial need and an interest in fire management, as Chris did. I thought that was a honorable thing that our state school did here. I really do. Nobody really knows what happened to Chris. Theories. Nobody knows. He disappeared. He disappeared in an area where two other of the most experienced people in the woods imaginable disappeared. That's 3 in that area. That's weird. Now, there's a lot of things in the Maine woods that are dangerous. The number one thing, people will argue with me, I don't care, is the moose. Moose are very dangerous. Very dangerous. If you see one, do not get near it. If it starts approaching you, you get a big bush or a couple of big trees between you and that moose, because they will jump up and stomp you and they can kill you. One of those hooves on your head and you're dead. So they look like a very pretty animal, but they're very dangerous. They also got bear up there. You know, just be careful. So anyhow, those are our 2 cases for today. Look up Stefanie's page on Facebook, Isaiah. her son would like that. And again, it's Stefanie Womacks, W-O-M-A-C-K-S, Table Rock State Park. Huck just woke up. She nudged my leg. She said, Dad, get going. You're getting boring. Okay. Remember, the kindness revolution costs nothing to be kind. Be polite. And I don't mean just giving a tip when a tip is deserved. But be polite, be happy, smile, be appreciative of good service, whether you're in the store, you're a restaurant, wherever. Be a quick look at it. Hey, Hawk, look at that. I love those side eyes when she looks up. Hey, you ready to go? You want to get out of here? Okay, we'll get out of here. Paulides out.